to begin with. But then I'm also going to explain to you how it's got this amazing possibility for teaching, how you can use it as a teacher to streamline your processes, make things faster and quicker for you, in terms of marking homework, in terms of taking down notes. I'm going to show you how students can take advantage of it to really kind of streamline how they do revision, for example. And then at the end, we're going to give you a little bit of a teaser of some AI that we've developed specifically for the Fab Lab, which I am extremely excited to be showing you. So without further ado, let me jump in. So what is artificial intelligence? Well, breaking it down to the simplest possible way that we can do it, it's using computers to be able to recognize things that as humans we just naturally recognize and understand. So it's using a computer to understand somebody talking, or using a computer to understand an image. For example, look, showing a picture of a cat to a computer, and the computer goes, this is a cat, or this is a tree, or this is a building. So it's getting a computer to recognize things. So it can be a real wide variety of what you could ask a computer to recognize. So just like how we see with things like Alexa or Siri, we have artificial intelligence that can recognize how we speak and our speech, but we can also use artificial intelligence to recognize sounds. So we use it to recognize things like music. If you've ever used something like Shazam, where you want to find out what a song is in a room when you're in a bar or a pub, maybe we can just about remember what those are now. You can use an app like that to recognize what a sound is, or what a song is. We can also use AI to recognize your handwriting. So for example, you can write something down on a piece of paper, and you can show it to a computer and it will show you it written out, typed out in text. Or we can show a computer text, and we can say to it, here is a piece of paper, somebody's written something. Generally in what they've written, are they saying something positive? Are they saying something negative? And we can use AI to kind of sort of tell us the sentiment of it, the feeling of it behind it. And what it's doing there is really looking for positive words and negative words, and trying to work out what kind of someone means as a result. As I said, we can recognize images, we can recognize videos, and we can also recognize faces. If you've got one of the latest Apple iPhones, you'll know that on your iPhone you can open things just with the power of your face, and that uses artificial intelligence. And we can also use it to recognize things like gestures. So for example, if you do a thumbs up, or if you put your arms in the air, we can have a computer recognize that from a picture, and tell us what we're doing. So the whole idea of AI is to recognize things, and recognize things that we take for granted as humans, things that we just kind of see and understand naturally. And I suppose the end goal would be to kind of maybe try and create a computer that is, similar to a human. That's what people hope for. We are quite a long way off of that. But the idea is to kind of sort of try and kind of get a computer to recognize something that is similar to the what a computer what a person might recognize in terms of their kind of intelligence. So how does artificial intelligence work? Because I'm sure if you've watched it in a film, or you've read a sci-fi book or something like that, it seems like this computer almost has like a mind of its own, and it seems very mysterious and intangible, and we're not kind of sure what it is. It's just kind of it just almost seems like another being. Well, I wanted to explain to you kind of how computers use AI in as simple as possible terms. So please don't be turned off. I'm going to try and use cats to explain this. So, for example, if I wanted a computer to recognize cats, what I would do is I would give the computer hundreds, if not thousands, of pictures of cats, and I would say, right, this is a cat, this is a cat, this is a cat, this is a cat. So I'd send hundreds and thousands of images to it. And I can do that because on the internet, I could load up Google image search, I could find a load of pictures of cats, and I could just send them all through to a computer and say, this is a cat. And in the background, what the computer will be doing is it will be looking at each picture. And you may know that when we look at a picture on a computer, it's made up of lots of different dots or lots of different pixels. When you buy a camera, for example, it might say this camera has 8 megapixels. It means that when it takes a picture, your picture's made up of 8 million different pixels, and every single one of these dots here is a pixel. So in an image, it's made up of lots of little dots, a bit like on a TV screen, on a phone, anything like that. And what the computer's doing is it's breaking it down into each individual dot or each individual pixel, and it's trying to spot a pattern. So in this case, we've taken a picture of Bridget Bennett's cat, Alexei Pushkin, and I've shown you how it can be broken down into pixels here. So it will look at that picture, it will break it down into each individual colored dot, and what it will do is it will almost write each dot out in a line. So it will go, right, I've first seen like a very pale grey dot, and then I've seen a dark dot, and then I've seen a slightly darker dot. And it will almost, make a little graph or make a little note of the pattern that it sees. So it's got a line here with a pattern of different colors. And then underneath, I've done sort of a little, very poorly drawn graph, I must say, but a graph of color intensity. So where it's lighter, it's lower, and where it's darker, it's higher. And you can see we've made kind of a little graph. And that's how a computer might see it and kind of go, okay, well, I've got these colors and they're different, they're different types of colors. I'm trying to recognize a pattern here. And then we feed it more pictures. So we give it another picture of a cat and we keep going. And with this picture of a cat, it's slightly different. So the colors, the pixels that we have with this cat are slightly different. So it will do this again. It will go, right, first one's gray, first one's a little bit darker, next one's a little bit lighter. It'll keep making that list. And then once we've done that, maybe hundreds of times, thousands of times, it'll have lots and lots of information. And what it will do is it will try and find patterns. It'll try and spot patterns between each of these pictures. And then through that, it will create something called an algorithm. That means that it will constantly be trained by these pictures that it's been seen. And it will spot the pattern, it will build an algorithm, and using that, it will then try and work out in the future. If you give it a random image, it will tell you whether it's a cat or not. So that's a very basic introduction to artificial intelligence. But the main point that I wanted to get over here is that it's not some superhuman computer that is trying to with a mind that is kind of sort of thinking. It's really just recognizing patterns and spotting those patterns within images, within really tiny little bits and blocks of data. So what can AI do? Well, you may not have noticed, but AI is actually everywhere. So when you log on to Facebook, your news feed that you scroll through, it's generally populated with things that Facebook thinks you're going to like on there, and it uses artificial intelligence to work out what you've liked in the past and then show you things that you might like in the future to keep you interested, to keep you on the platform, to keep you engaging with people. Similar thing with Netflix. You'll find that if you've watched, 4 or 5 different films or movies or documentaries, it will start suggesting other things that you might quite like as a result. And that is all artificial intelligence. It's looking at what you've done before and what you've liked, what you've watched, and then it's trying to spot a pattern and going, well, I know you like sci-fi and I know you like horror and I know you like cats. So I'm going to suggest you this sci-fi horror cat movie as a result. And that's how it's always suggesting sort of interesting things that, you're more likely to watch. With an iPhone, like I've mentioned, we have things like Face ID, which will use AI to recognize your face. It will build a pattern of your face. And then when you hold your face up to it, it'll notice that your face matches that pattern that it's built up. Again, it's AI. If you use something like Google Maps and you want to work out the fastest route home after work, again, there's artificial intelligence in there, which is working out where you are, all of the roads between you and your house. And then it's also taking into account things like what's the traffic like, are there any accidents, and it's trying to work out a pattern of the quickest route for you back home. And things like voice assistants. We almost don't think of voice assistants as artificial intelligence. They're almost kind of a separate field now. But voice assistants work in exactly the same way. You say a sound to a computer. The computer records that sound. It looks for the patterns in the sound, which matches a database of words that it has. And then from that, it tries to work out what you mean or what you want it to do. So AI is already pervasive within our society. It's here, it's there. If you were worried that AI was going to take over the world, like something out of the Terminator, I'm afraid to tell you that AI has already taken over the world, but not in the form that we necessarily think. It's in small things that we don't necessarily notice, but we see them in everyday things like websites or social media platforms or apps that we use on our mobile phones. But AI is incredibly exciting because it can be used to spot things and spot patterns. And the beauty of being able to spot patterns is that we can use computers to do things that, as humans, we would find tedious or would take too long. So, for example, AI is looking really promising and is going to completely transform the way that we do things like astronomy or the way that we diagnose medical conditions. For example, we've got loads of satellites in the sky. They're taking hundreds of thousands of pictures of the night sky, of the universe, of blank spaces, stars. We don't have the time to kind of run through all of those photos and work out if there's a star somewhere, if there's a new solar system somewhere. But we can send all of those images through an AI. And if we teach an AI what a planet looks like and what a star looks like, then it can run through all of those images and tell us where new planets are without us having to do that ourselves. Similarly, if you are, say, a doctor or you work in medical imaging and you do, say, like an MRI scan, when you're looking at something like an MRI scan or any other form of scan, you're looking at a picture, and from that picture, you're trying to work out or diagnose if you have a medical condition or a disease, or if something's happened to you. Again, those are just pictures and those are just patterns, and we can use AI to work out and diagnose if you have something, if you have a disease, from a picture, so that a doctor doesn't necessarily have to do that. Obviously, we would still be wanting a doctor to verify that, but we found that AI is a really fantastic way of recognizing illnesses from scans, and it can do it with almost the same accuracy as a highly trained eye surgeon or a highly trained doctor. We can also use it to recognize patterns on your credit card spending, for example. So it will look at how you normally spend your money, and then if something kind of seems amiss or unlikely, then it can be used to spot fraudulent activity on your bank account, for example. And similarly, we can train AI to say these are images that are offensive, or this is text that is offensive on Twitter, and this should be filtered out. So we can use it to kind of help make the internet a safer place as well. So there's a huge amount of potential for AI in terms of what it can do and what it can achieve. So I've talked about what AI can do. I'm going to quickly talk about what AI can't do, or the limitations of AI. Like I've said previously, we're not in a situation where we have something out of, say, like Ex Machina or AI, the film. We're not in a situation where we have robots that can act as humans in every single way that a human can be. AI is very good at doing one very specific thing. So we can train AI to be really, really good at chess. And actually, AI is better at chess than any other human in the world. But we can't train AI to kind of have the same feelings or the same sort of intelligence that we have as humans. And as teachers and as educators, I'm sure you'll all know that, intelligence isn't just based on IQ. We have emotional intelligence, we have musical intelligence, we have a real wide variety of different ways that we can be intelligent. And it's not something that you can just kind of write down in a box, or kind of necessarily kind of categorize. So AI isn't anywhere near how we see it in the movies or how we see it in films. It can be very good for one thing and one thing only. You want it to win at a video game. You want it to recognize, a very specific. You want it to recognize patterns on, an MRI scan, for example. It can do that really well, but it's not able to, perform in the same way as a human, for example. AI is just very complex, very advanced mathematics and algorithms. But That's not to say that it's not going to change the world, and that's not to say that it can't do some amazing things as well. So I've given you a quick run through an overview of what AI is. I hope I haven't kind of bogged you down too much and you're still interested, because we are moving on to hopefully the more exciting stuff of how you can use AI as teachers and educators now. So there's quite a lot of AI that you can download on your phone, and chances are you may have used some of it already. But one app that I think is really, really fascinating, really useful within education, but also great for sort of supporting students as well, is an app called Seeing AI. And if you're thinking, great, I want to have a play with AI, I want to see what it can do, I'd really recommend this app by Microsoft. It's called Seeing AI. It's designed for visually impaired people. And the idea is that it's almost kind of like a computer that interprets the world for you because you can't see it yourself. So you can use it to identify pictures, text, banknotes, handwriting, and you've got all of these icons down here on the bottom, which you can use to recognize things. But I thought I'd give you a quick demo and show you what it looks like.
Call the midwife. True story of the East End in the 1950s, as seen on BBC. Product.
So here the AI was actually doing some text recognition. So it was reading off what it could see on the front of the book just by holding your phone at it. It's now going to read off the barcode at the back and tell you what the book is. And as you can see, it's correctly identified the book. So it's actually done a bit of image recognition there. And again, you know, something like a barcode is a form of image recognition that we use every day at the supermarket.
Person. 1, 2 faces. 3 faces. 4 faces. Processing. 4 people detected. 56-year-old woman looking happy. 33-year-old woman with brown hair looking happy. 24-year-old woman with brown hair looking happy. 40-year-old woman with brown hair wearing glasses looking neutral.
So an example of face recognition, and you know what you can do with AI now. Try it out on yourself if you want. Obviously, say that with caution. You'll either be convinced that AI is amazing, or you may not be convinced by AI after trying it out on yourself. But again, some fantastic uses of AI there. With this example, you can hold it and move it around the world around you, and it will show you on your screen what something is, so like a table or a person, but it'll also read it out and sort of interpret the world around you as well. So another example of image recognition.
Brown. Brown and grey. Grey.
Here we're recognizing different colors.
White. Grey and brown. Brown. Brown and white. Grey and white. Red. Document. Bottom left corner not visible.
So here I've written something out, and let's see if it can actually transcribe what I've written.
Hold steady. Processing.
So it's a little bit small, but it has actually transcribed it pretty much perfectly.
And left edge is not visible. Hold.
Or I can do the same, but with some typed out text.
Steady. Processing.
And in a matter of seconds, it's taken something that's printed out and it's on the screen in front of me. The beauty of this app as well is that as teachers, if somebody gives you something that's handwritten, but you'd prefer to have it in a, you know, in a document format for your computer, you can just scan it with this app, and then you can just copy that text, move it across into your notes, move it across into your emails, move it across into Word. But also for students as well, if they've written something out but they want to digitize those notes for revision notes, for anything really, it's a really super quick way of being able to do that. So great app by Microsoft here. I'd really encourage you to have a play with it, try it out. The image recognition on it is really quite something. We've used it with some custom robots that we've built in the Fab Lab, where we've held it up to a robot, and it's a robot that we've made. It's not it's something kind of completely brand new that it may not have seen before, and it still says robot on a table with a plant pot. So it is really quite something. And there's lots of other AI apps that you can play around with that are really relevant for education and teaching. For biology, for example, or if you want to teach your students about nature, there's a great app called Seek by iNaturalist, where you can hold it up to different types of plants and it will tell you what the different types of plants are. For ESOL students who are learning English inside a world where they don't know all of the vocabulary yet, they may not even be able to kind of necessarily easily kind of access a translator or a dictionary, they can use an app called Google Lens, which allows them to, in a similar way to seeing AI, take a picture of something in front of them, and then the AI will tell them what that object is in English, which is a fantastic way of learning a language without having to translate it into your home language to begin with. It's always easier if you learn it in your target language. For music, there are things like Chord AI, where you can play music to the app, and it will literally give you all of the music. It will give you all of the chords, as if you had all of the music to kind of play on your own device. So you can just kind of have all of those chords to kind of play on the piano or play on the guitar or anything like that automatically. And again, it's just breaking it down into little chunks, and it's analyzing every single one of those and comparing it to the patterns that it has on its system. There's another great one here called Otter, and we touched on this last month with voice-controlled apps. But this one, you can hold this app out in a meeting or have it on your computer, and it will basically act as an assistant to your meeting. So it will transcribe all of your notes that everybody says. It will recognize when different people are talking. So at the end of your meeting, you will have a full transcript of everything that's everyone said. But it will also kind of say there were 4 people in this meeting, and I've categorized that person 1 said this, and then person 2 said this, and then person 3 said this. And if you want to add their names next to them, then I'll obviously turn it into a more of like a script or a dialogue for someone. So really great uses for meetings. Revision for students, there's a great app called Note, where they can copy and paste in their revision notes, and it will take all of the text that they've written, all of their notes from anywhere that they've copied it from, and it will automatically create question and answer revision cards for them based on the text that's been given to them. So again, this is AI that's looking at text. It's trying to analyze what the text means and then put it into questions and answers so that you can test yourself without having to kind of have a partner there to sort of come up with questions for you. And this example, home court for sport, if you play basketball, you can hold your phone, or you can leave your phone on the side of the sports hall or the side of the place that you're playing basketball, record what you're doing, and then it will give you AI feedback as to how you performed during the match in terms of kind of how you threw the ball, how you ran around, and it will give you personalized stats on your own individual performance as a basketball player. Again, completely free to download and use. So some really exciting uses of AI within education. But you don't have to go far to find AI. There's even AI inside things like Word and PowerPoint. So to give you a very general example here, this is some text that was a very poorly written text that I tried to type out. And there's an option in Word called Editor, and it's on the Word for Web version, and it's this little kind of sort of pen with some sort of lines next to it. But you can find it on all versions of Word, and it gives you kind of sort of detailed AI feedback on kind of your writing. So in this case, you can say, well, I want to write something formally, or I want to write something in a more casual format. And it will give you a score as to kind of how well Word thinks that you've written it. And then it will give you advice on how to improve the spelling or the grammar, which is what you would expect anyway from Word. We've had that for a long time. But it will also give you advice on how to improve the clarity of what you're writing, how to make it more concise, how to make it sound more kind of inclusive, how to avoid any kind of sort of acronyms as a result. So it's more than just kind of spelling or grammar. And you may have seen a similar program called Grammarly. I know it appears quite a lot on YouTube ads, or at least it does for me. I don't know about anyone else. Maybe that's just the AI suggesting it for me. But this is obviously a free app that you can use, obviously with Microsoft products again. And in a way, it will help your students improve how they write, or give them suggestions on how they can improve their work, without you necessarily having to kind of go through and do those basics of spelling and grammar every single time. So time saver for you, but also helpful for students in that they can receive some personalized feedback. And again, it will even do things like inclusiveness. So making sure that obviously the terms that you use, are inclusive for everyone. There's other things like sensitive geopolitical references. I'm not sure what you would need to write to necessarily kind of flag that one up. But again, it will flag up a real wide variety of different things. This function here called similarity might be of interest to you, Marie. Here it will basically sort of check, first of all, if anything within the document has been plagiarized. So is anything in the text similar to what's been written somewhere else on the internet? And in this case, I copied and pasted this last paragraph in to show you. And here you can click and see that it said, right, well, you've included it from this website. So I'm going to flag this up. Do you want to include a citation here? So it will even help you with your citations, but also it will make students quite aware of if they are plagiarizing something or copying in something from somewhere on the internet, that it's evidently available. But also as a teacher, you can open up that Word document, open up Editor, and very quickly see whether it is something that they have written themselves or something that's kind of come from somewhere else.
Gosh, Ben, everybody's new on this, thinks Marie does loads of plagiarism. No, I don't. Sorry, I was playing with that because obviously the CNA1 with the colours, with the female being colourblind, that's going to be great for me.
Oh, great stuff.
Cover over clothes or makeup, and it will tell me the colours. I've just tried it. It's really good. Just
fantastic. Pleased to hear.
Brilliant.
Great stuff. So Word, loads of hidden features in Word. Word always surprises me with what you can do with it. It's not just a place for typing text. But interestingly, here, for example, if you're asking a student to give a presentation, you can type something in, and it will tell you how long it's going to take to read it or to speak it. So quite useful if you want students to be very precise in how long they're kind of doing things for. On the topic of presentations, let's move on to PowerPoint. PowerPoint now has some really exciting and interesting AI in it. And if your students are looking for practicing presentations or practicing maybe even something like a job interview, PowerPoint's got a load of AI features in there, which will kind of basically give you feedback on how well you're giving a presentation. So I'll show you how it works. This is on your standard PowerPoint that you download onto your computer or on the web version. To find it, you need to go to... Right, what I'm going to do, I have dubbed over this section just so that you can see what I'm doing. But you go to slideshow here, and then you press rehearse with coach. And the idea is that you practice giving your presentation as normal. So you go through your slides and you click start rehearsing, and PowerPoint listens to what you say, and it gives you live real-time feedback on how you're presenting. So let me show you. Now, what Rehearse with Coach will do is it will listen to you whilst you're giving a presentation, and it will give you feedback on sort of how you're presenting, how you're performing. So I'm going to click start rehearsing. So as you can see, I can just start giving my presentation as normal. I've got access to slides, I've got access to text as I normally would do. So what exactly is PowerPoint AI looking for? Well, it's looking for things like pace. So am I speaking too quickly? Am I speaking too slowly? Am I using any filler words like or am I reading from the slides too much? Is my pitch correct? Am I using repetitive language. So am I going round in circles a lot? Am I repeating what I'm saying? Am I sticking to the point? The latest features are also being trialled with PowerPoint for web, and it allows you to turn on your camera as well, so it can track your body language and give you some feedback on that as well. What's great as well is at the end you get this massive sort of dashboard which gives you a report on how you've performed. So it will say you had a good pace here, you didn't speak too quickly, you didn't speak too slowly, you used quite a lot of fillers. It will sort of check that you haven't said any kind of sort of sensitive phrases. For example, if you said something that wasn't kind of gender inclusive or gender neutral, it will flag up on that. It will talk to you about your pitch. The one that I think is fantastic is whether you're reading off the slides too much or not. So if you read off the slides too much, and I was trying to read off the slides in that recording, but it didn't kind of pick it up so much. If you're literally reading the slide word for word, it will be like, no, stop doing that. So we already have some teachers at Samwell who have tried this out with a few students, and they absolutely love it, because you don't need to practice in front of another person anymore. You can practice on your own, in private. You've almost got like a psychological safety to try things out, do things on your own, and you kind of get this feedback, quite instantly and quite quickly on how you performed. So you could use it for a presentation practice. You could potentially even use it for something like a job interview. The list goes on, and it's endless and completely free and available to use in PowerPoint. The final feature that I want to show you is something really exciting, and this is the idea of using AI to basically do all your marking for you. So with Backpacks, this is a completely free website. You don't have to pay anything for it. And what you can do is you can sort of make your own worksheets, make your own home worksheets. And what students do is they either kind of fill out those worksheets online, or you print out a worksheet and they write it all out. And then once they're done with it, you either take a picture of their worksheet or they take a picture of their worksheet and they upload it to Backpacks. And Backpacks will automatically use AI to basically recognize all of their handwriting, convert it into text, and then it will compare it to a bank of acceptable answers that you've provided on the worksheet. So if you've said, the student needs to write true here to get the point, or the student needs to write one of these 3 or 4 phrases to get the point, it will automatically mark that and grade that for you. So you can have something as simple as a worksheet where students are writing something out, you take a picture of it, Backpacks does all of the work for you, works out what they're saying, marks it against your mark book. Students automatically get feedback as soon as they upload it, so they know how well they've done. And as a teacher, you get dashboards with feedback on kind of how each of your students are performing, and which ones were questions that students generally got right, generally didn't get right. So I'm going to give you a quick demo to show you how it works. So here I've designed a worksheet on emerging technologies. You can see that you can add a name, you can add a date, and then you've got questions, you've got different sections, then you've got boxes that students can kind of put things in as well. So we've got simple yes, no, true, false questions, but you can have multiple choice. You can have image annotations. With these, you'll have to mark those manually yourself. And then you've also got some sort of larger, longer questions, which if it's kind of no more than a sentence, you can get the AI to do itself. If it's longer than a sentence, then it's probably going to struggle with it. But depending on how you do a quiz, how you ask things, it could be really powerful. The other thing that I want to mention as well is that if we've got any maths teachers in the room, Backpacks will even recognize mathematical text. So you can put square roots, you can put powers, you can put equal signs, you can put matrices, you can put all of your mathematical functions and operators in, and it will recognize those when it scans in the text as well. So it's really quite clever. So here I've filled out my worksheet. I'm going to take a picture of it. And as a student, I just import it into Backpacks like so. I upload a picture. it processes it. If there's obviously an extra page, then I can take a picture of another page, take another picture. With that example, obviously it's a longer text one, so that would probably be something that you would need to mark yourself. And then once you've scanned it in as a student, you can then flick through and check that Backpacks has detected everything. So these are just really simple examples just to show you. But you'll see it's recognized the text that I've put down. With this one, I've annotated something, so it would expect you to mark this one yourself. But as you can see, one of the answers was E equals MC squared, and it's picked it up perfectly. I could have also put MC squared equals E, and it would have still marked it as correct because it knows. Then as a student, you get an automatic sheet saying whether you got it right or wrong or not. So you can see how well you've done, or see if there's any ones that your teacher needs to kind of sort of go through and mark beforehand. You've got a nice little dashboard that a student has. This is your teacher dashboard. So you can see all of your questions, all of your students, and you can see who got what right and wrong. You can see what students struggled most, which question was most difficult. And the beauty of it as well is that you can even download that information into Excel. So if you've got your own master spreadsheet or you want to bring it into a different program, you can do so. The other fantastic thing about Backpacks is, I imagine some of you may be thinking, this is great, but I've already got my own worksheets. They're all set up. They're all ready. I don't want to go through the process of making, all of these new worksheets potentially on a new platform. That would obviously take quite a long time. Well, Backpacks has thought of that. So you can create your own worksheet from something that you've already made. So in this case, I can take a picture of a worksheet that I've already made with the answers on. And once I've taken that picture, I can literally just highlight where a question is, highlight where the answer is. And again, it will use AI to pick up, detect what's been written, detect what the answer is, and automatically create that worksheet for me.
So Ben, am I right in thinking that this is totally free, this one, Backpack?
This one is, you are completely right, Anne. This is completely free. It blew my mind because I mean we look at a lot of websites and we look at a lot of ed tech stuff, and this one is of no charge
At all?
at all.
What about if you do like you suddenly get really crazy and you do like, I don't know, 50 worksheets? Do they start charging as you sort of the more you do? It's absolutely nothing.
Not that I'm aware of, no. I mean, even on their main page, I don't believe there's even a kind of sort of a pricing section on there. It's only if you want to do like really sort of complex stuff that, to be honest, when I looked at it, I thought, well, you wouldn't necessarily need to do that. I think they do offer a premium plan, but it only really offers you kind of sort of premium support. It's nothing more than that. So a really fantastic tool. And this last bit, you can take advantage of other worksheets that people have uploaded elsewhere. This is a US focused website, so a lot of the worksheets will be based on US schemes of work, US, kind of curriculum targets and criteria. But I'm assuming that there will still be lots of other, lots of content that you can borrow or quite easily modify as well. So really fantastic to recommend you to give it a try. Hopefully this is an example of how teachers and educators can use AI to save time, make things hopefully more enjoyable, more interesting for students, reduce those kind of sort of administrative kind of manual processes, because you're not, and as Backpacks correctly says, you're teachers, you're not graders. So we've run through AI, how you can use AI with different apps, different features, different ways of doing things. But the beauty of AI is, I mean, obviously it's a fairly new technology, but I mean, the idea of it's been around for quite a long time. But nowadays, you can actually make your own AI. So you can, build something yourself, use AI to solve problems within your own classroom to make things easier. Like I said, to make processes easier. So I wanted to give you a quick example of one of the ways that the Fab Lab uses artificial intelligence, and some artificial intelligence that we've built in order to recognize different tools within the Fab Lab. As we have students who sometimes come in, they're not always kind of familiar with the equipment. They might say, "What's this?" So we've developed an AI that automatically tells them. They don't need to ask someone what it is. They can hold an object up in front of them, in front of this computer, and it will automatically tell them what it is. So let's take a look. So really nice example of how we can sort of teach students about different objects or different things that that we have inside the Fab Lab. In this case, these very sort of tiny electronics that we use to kind of sort of make things. But sometimes people say, well, what is this? And we can go, well, actually, you can use our tool ID AI in order to kind of sort of learn yourself as a self-service way. But again, something could easily be developed for, say, like ESOL, to kind of help students kind of learn common names for common objects, common phrases. You could build your own AI to kind of recognize or identify different subject-specific objects within your own area. And the advantage of something like this is it's really quick and easy to make. You can just take pictures, lots of pictures. In this case, we took, several hundred pictures, and then we were able to just select all of them and say, this is a potentiometer, this is LED matrix. And then we got the computer to be able to kind of sort of learn what those are and recognize them, like in the example below. Anything you wanted to add, Anne?
Well, yes. So I was just going to say, now, as you know, we've got so many bits and pieces in the Fab Lab, lots of electronic bits, which are quite tiny, lots of other things that resources. And I've always struggled to, A, know where they are, and B, know where to put them in anyway in the first place. And my dream, I've always wanted like a tidying machine. So that is what I've always wanted, as you know. So
well,
what can you do?
What can I do? Well, I'll take your tidying machine and I'll up it one with the power of AI. I'll introduce you to the sorting hat. So AI, how's that for you, Anne?
That's sort of exceeded my expectation. That is, so yeah, I'm really pleased, and I can't wait to sort everything in the Fab Lab. So that'll be brilliant. We've got a couple of questions because Bridget wants to know: is there some special app we need to take photos and label the items plus identify locations? How does it work? Basically, she wants to know how it works.
So there's sort of two. Did you want to add something, Bridget? Sorry.
No, I just want to ask how you did it. So I get the concept of you've got these photos and the technology, the AI recognizes it and put a name to it, but you've got to program it to do that, haven't you? I'm thinking.
To a certain extent. So the idea of what I showed you in the first video of being able to sort of effectively what we'll do is we take hundreds of pictures of these items on a computer program. So there's one called Teachable Machine, which is a website you can go to. There's another one that's just been recently launched called Microsoft Lobe, which is a fantastic tool to be able to do image recognition as well. And what we do is we just run loads of pictures through that computer app. Takes about half an hour or so to run, maybe 5 or 10. And then in the background, the computer will be making all of the code, all of the things that you need to do with it. And then you can use that computer program just on a bog standard computer. You can have a computer in the Fab Lab with a camera attached, which you can then just have running, and then it will automatically identify objects. In the case of the sorting hat, we have a tiny little computer which we use for this, which is called a Raspberry Pi, and this is the guts inside of the sorting hat. So it's just a very little computer, just a very, very small computer with a screen and with a camera. And you basically add some software to this, which takes about half an hour to do. It's not particularly technical. We could, very easily teach our students how to do this. And then you just take the file that the computer has spat out from all of the pictures, and you add it onto this.
Wow. How much does a little computer cost?
This, all in all, is about £100.
Oh, right, okay. Very good. I'm just thinking you should go into manufacturing it so we could tidy our rooms and things like that.
Yeah,
well, sorting hat.
I'm
kind of like taking it all from Mary Poppins, isn't it?
I'm sure we could make. We'd be more than happy to make sorting hats for any other department within the college, or any other school how to do it. It's not hard. Or we can make you can make your own little box for it. It doesn't have to be a sorting hat. It could be just a box or whatever you like.
Fantastic. So I noticed Claire in the chat box talked about her brother's got a company that actually does this stuff. Is that right, Claire?
Yeah, it's called Audio. If you have a look at audioanalytic.com, my brother's been doing it for probably about 12, 14 years now. He was one of the early adopters of it. But just check out the company audioanalytic.com. Ben might find it quite interesting, actually.
Will do.
Yeah. Got a good contact there, Ben.
Yeah.
Let me know if you want any further details. I'm sure he'd have a chat with you if you asked.
Yeah,
sounds great.
Yeah, brilliant. Anyway, is that just about the end of your presentation?
Pretty much. The only other thing I wanted to say was, obviously, we're here as Fab Lab, as an EdTech demonstrator site. The idea is to kind of show you the potential of this technology, but also if any of this has taken your fancy, taken your interest, then we would love to be able to work with you to help you develop some AI for your world, for your students, for your classes, to maybe teach your students how they can make their own AI, their own mini sorting hats, for example, but possibly in relation to kind of your own subjects as well. We've got loads of brand new exciting gadgets and equipment that we can kind of teach students about how to use AI with. So if you want to brainstorm any ideas of how it might work, want to try out some of the things that we have, or learn more about it, then please do get in touch. We would love to hear from you.
Thank you. Can I just noticed another question in there as well. And did you see, Catherine, is this something you could program on Raspberry Pi? Oh, help them tidy up. Yes.
Yeah, so
it was done on a thing.
Yeah, that's it. It was done on a Raspberry Pi, which is quite a low cost computer program.
Yeah.
Has anyone else got any other questions? I know we didn't answer one earlier, which is, can Nout do revision question and answers for maths? Ben, do you know if Nout can do maths?
I don't know if it can do. I don't think it will be able to do sort of equation-based revision and answer stuff for maths.
No.
You could give it a go though. I mean, obviously, depending on the type of maths that you're studying, you may be able to kind of sort of get it to work. But I would say probably not in the most typical sense. I mean, having studied maths to degree level myself, it's more of a doing than a doing thing than maybe a revision thing.
Is Nout, sorry to interrupt, is Nout just for the phone?
For phone and computer as well.
Thank you.
Anyone else got any other questions they want to ask Ben?
Nout as well, or note. I presume it's pronounced note and not nout. That's probably what they're aiming for. With note as well, we're imminently due to release a load of videos online through LinkedIn Learning, and one of the videos that we're going to be launching is on Note, and a real in-depth tutorial of how to use it with kind of your students. But there's also a teacher dashboard on Note as well, so you can copy and paste in your own teacher notes or teacher revision notes or teacher crib sheets, generate Q&As from it, and then you can always kind of send those out to your students in a similar way to kind of backpacks, and they can sort of try it out and you can see how well they've done on them.
And Deb's just said about, have you tried the maths equation AI tool in OneNote? I don't know that I have. I don't know whether you have.
I don't think I have, no.
I don't know, Deb, could you explain it a bit more? Does it sort of type it out for you or something? Or?
Do you want me to speak it? It's a bit easier.
Yeah.
So you use digital inking. Let's say you write a maths sum out, and then you lasso tool it, and the AI converts it to numbers, symbols. It then solves the sum for you, but gives you options down the side. So it shows you all different ways of working out the formula. So it doesn't just give you the end answer, it gives you the formula. If there's any graphs or any charts within it, it will also show you examples of that. But then what you can do then, which is the super sexy bit, is as a teacher or even as a student, you can say, right, I want to test my students on this particular level of sum. So you just click a button, it automatically builds, say, 20 or 25 questions similar to the sum that you've just worked through with your students, creates a Microsoft form quiz for your students to do. They do it, and then you get the results. So it's a real game changer for maths teachers. But also if students try it out, they can set themselves quizzes. So does that explain?
What's that called, please? Sorry.
It's OneNote, Microsoft Office, Microsoft OneNote.
Yeah, so if you're part of Sandwell College, I don't know about everyone else, but we have Microsoft 365. So as part of that, you will have OneNote. So thank you very much, because I'm going to go and investigate that next. That was brilliant. I'm afraid we're just about running out of time. I mean, we will hang on and do a few more questions if anyone else has anything, but I just want to quickly wrap up and say that, of course, we are doing another Tech Tuesday next month. So Tuesday, the 25th of May, and it's going to be Internet of Things. So it's about sort of connecting up different things and getting them to talk to each other. So getting your phone to talk to, the computer, and getting buttons to, if you press a button, it will work on something else. So yeah, there's lots of different things that you should be able to, connect up to lots of different other things.
Again, it sounds like a bit of a sort of sounds like a bit of a topic that it doesn't sound like a very tangible topic, but it's a really powerful one, and it's another technology that we're focusing on as a demonstrator site. And it's, again, like Anne says, it's about connecting different things up together using the internet. So for example, can I connect my phone to Dropbox, or can I connect Microsoft Excel to my voice assistant? And so it's kind of taking two maybe very separate programs or apps and seeing how we can kind of link them together and make processes really quick, admin really quick and easy, and getting all of those systems to talk to each other that you would like to do. And there's loads of really interesting ways to do it. But we're also going to touch as well on some like collaborative spaces that you can use. It's taking the term Internet of Things a little bit to one side, but we wanted to kind of show you some collaborative internet spaces as well, which are really exciting as well. So again, don't be put off by the name. Some really exciting content on there, really powerful stuff for you to use as a teachers and educators, and we really can't wait to show you more about it.